They
fashion, media, and communication with International Magic Present, HYPERHYPERBODIES,
a summit
on the role of bodies in a more than human world.
International
Magic. I am human.
I am not a robot. A brief history of
World building.
So, to begin with, we're going to start off with quite a light-hearted talk called I Am Human, I'm Not a Robot. And this is a brief history of world building. So we wanted to look back at this kind of rich canon of world building from the past and examine like lots of different historical examples showing the connection between world building, culture, society, politics, and also talk about how fashion exists in this same space as a mirror of society and a reflection of our times, like Daniel was just talking about. So, the art of world building has this rich history dating back to the dawn of humanity. These early forms of communication were intrinsically connected to their surroundings and also like to the available tools at the time, revealing these deep-rooted connection between context and expression. What can we learn about world building by looking back and studying what came before, and what aspects change and what stays the same? So through this lens of social constructivism, we can see how our beliefs and our values and worldviews are molded by the cultural and social forces that surround us. So by exploring this connection, we can gain some insights into the power of context shaping this human experience. And humans are like obviously the only picture-making animals. So myths and lore are also an early form of world building. They were created to explain the universe, its cosmos and natural forces. They also describe relationships between gods, humans and other supernatural entities, all of which led to this collective understanding of the world. So throughout history, clothing has been used to indicate wealth, status, rank, and to signal membership in a particular group. In some societies, clothing was also believed to have magical properties and was used to protect the wearer from harm or also bring good luck.
As language evolved, so did the creation of more complex narratives exploring the human experience. Language was and still is a powerful tool for transmitting cultural, natural and survival knowledge. The African griot is a great example of a human library, one person maintaining the history of oral tradition and wisdom and then passing these stories down from generation to generation. In our techno-charged world, who are today's griots?
So the Renaissance unleashed this tidal wave of world-building innovation. Artists like Leonardo, Michelangelo pushing the boundaries with these hyper-realistic, imaginative drawings and paintings. What informed their visions of the world, and how were these messages influenced by the social, cultural and political climate of the time? How does story and world building then change and represent human experience? So one picture I always come back to is the Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch. This is a triptych masterpiece that showcases an early example of world building in the world of art. So the painting was created around the late 15th to 16th century. It depicts this fantastical garden filled with imaginative creatures and loads of intricate details. The left-hand panel shows the creation of the world by God, while the right panel represents the torments of hell. But it's in the centre panel that stands out as a prime example of world building. It features a paradise-like garden, overflowing with naked figures indulging in various activities like feasting, dancing, playing musical instruments, and interacting with the fantastical creatures like birds and beasts. The Enlightenment was a seminal moment in the history of human thought, paving the way for the creation of imaginative realms, as seen in works like Gulliver's Travels, Shelley's Frankenstein. So as science and reason evolved, so did our fascination with fantasy and fiction. Funnily enough, if you Google the Age of Enlightenment, it's like a load of white guys in a room. It's like one woman. One of my earliest influences was kabuki theatre. They have some kabuki masks in the Glasgow Gallery of Modern Art. So this is like one of my favourite examples of world building, and kind of this is what got me interested in the field of design and theatre and art and music. So kabuki is known for its elaborate costumes, music, dance, makeup, stage design to create this really vivid alternate reality. And it's also like a kind of mesmerising escape from everyday life, and it teaches us about full immersion of the five senses and our range of what our broad range of expression can be. Like fashion shows, these events are like a caricature of real life. And things start speeding up in the Industrial Revolution, which ignited this real creative explosion, fueling the spread of art and literature, printing, publishing, transportation even, allowed creators to reach a much wider audience, offering new perspectives on this rapidly evolving world. So this paradigm shift changed attitudes towards art and literature, elevating it as a tool to understand and contemplate the social, political and cultural changes of the time. So we're now living in the technological revolution. How will these emerging technologies and new mediums birth new forms of human expression and subsequently influence the world of fashion?
So there's no wrong or right way to building a world or narrative. However, what's become apparent to us during this process is that there's a golden thread that connects all of the best examples of world building, wrestling being one of them. These examples have an element of authenticity and realism. This uncanny familiarity leads to a deeper immersion and engagement with the world you're creating. Kayfabe is a term used in professional wrestling to refer to the portrayal of events and characters within the industry as real and not staged. The term refers to the code of secrecy and presentation of wrestling as a legitimate sport, even though it is scripted and choreographed. The idea behind kayfabe is to maintain the illusion that the event and the ring are real and not predetermined, and to preserve the drama and excitement of the performance for the audience. Even after the performance, wrestlers maintain the facade, further reinforcing the fantasy for the viewer. So when we think about this golden thread, we think about empathy and understanding. Understanding and connecting with the audience and world building requires a lot of empathy to create relatable and believable characters and narratives. Storytelling and narrative is a fundamental component of world building. There are many formulas for this, the hero's journey, for example, and we encourage all of you to explore them because they've done a lot to help us develop narratives. Finally, attention to detail. Building compelling worlds requires an atomic attention to detail. How can you zoom into a certain aspect of your world to make it resonate with your audience? When we reflect on these, it's apparent that they're very human attributes which cannot be copied or emulated by machines or technology. We'd like to show some examples now which demonstrate the golden thread. It's a celebration of what makes humans human. This will hopefully help us better define the role our digital counterparts will play in the future.
We shape our tools and thereafter our tools shape us is a great quote from Marshall McLuhan, who revolutionised our understanding of media and technology as both tools and extensions of ourselves. His work argued that media shapes our reality, influencing the way we interact with the world. Marshall saw technology not just as a tool, but a reflection of our physical and mental capabilities that impact how we experience reality. So, if the medium is the message, then what's the point of the message? Shuman Basar, recent article introducing the concept of lower core, shines a light on the impact cultural narratives and stories play in shaping our perception of the world and our place in it. So, one of the things that really resonated with me was his idea of magic individuals. So this is a quote from Schumann. Every era has its magic individuals. They're endowed with special powers of sight or insight, channeling the culture and often telling the culture truths about itself it doesn't know or is too afraid to ask. In the past, magic individuals have arrived as poets, composers, scientists, novelists, or artists. There was always the next big thing out there waiting to hit us and change the way we understood the world. Magic individuals pointed them to us. Look, it's over there. Lately, it's as if tech is already the next big thing, and then the next big thing, plus the big thing that comes after. Tech is the ultimate modern magic. This makes technologians the magic individuals of lower core. They're figures of extraordinary persuasion and therefore of extraordinary power. So, from our perspective, musicians offer like portals to new worlds, where sound transcends time and space to evoke emotions and shape moods. Artists like Miles Davis and Prince paved the way with these genre-defying sounds, and groups like Funkadelic, Sun Ra, and also Fela Kuti use music as a political tool. Meanwhile, artists like Underground Resistance, Autechre, and Sophie pushed electronic music to its limits. These sonic visionaries not only crafted captivating soundscapes, but they also used fashion as a means of expressing their unique perspective and extending these worlds and personas.
Sci-fi visionaries like Ursula K. Le Guin, Philip K. Dick, and William Gibson crafted alternate worlds that mirror our own. Their works challenge conventions. Le Guin explored gender roles and power dynamics, and Gibson delved into the evolution of identity in a tech-driven world. Meanwhile, Duchamp challenged traditional concepts of beauty, using his works to question the role of art and the artist.
So, we also love artists that use their art forms as tools in narration, subverting dominant narratives and offering new perspectives on the world. Judy Chicago, for example, disrupts the patriarch through her feminist works, such as The Dinner Party and her Smoke Sculpture series. Arthur Jafa's film and photography, like his landmark film Love is the Message is Death, examined the intersection of race, class, and culture in America. So, also architecture shapes our physical environment and influences the way we experience the world. Design, materials, and site selections tell a story of history, culture, power, and identity. Balkrishna Doshi, who sadly passed away recently, he's one of our favourite physical world builders. He studied under Le Corbusier and was known for his ability to reinterpret and adapt the principles of brutalism to suit the Indian context. Doshi left this lasting impact on the architectural world and will be fondly remembered as one of the great pioneers of Indian architecture and architecture across the world.
What we wear says a lot about who we are and the culture we identify with. Increasingly, the boundaries are disintegrating and blurring as movements, cultures, identities become more and more fluid. Virgil Abloh seamlessly bridged the gap between streetwear and luxury fashion. His disruptive approach to fashion made the industry more accessible and appealing to a younger, more diverse audience. His work goes beyond just fashion, but it's considered a form of cultural commentary and a reflection of the world. He democratized access and open-sourced the codes and tools, paving the way for many others and leaving a rich and fruitful legacy.
So, what now? This is an amazing quote from the Ian Cheng book, Emissary's Guide to Worlding. What is a world? A world evokes a place. A world has borders. A world has laws. A world has values. A world has a language. A world can grow. A world can collapse. A world has mythic figures. A world has visitors. A world has members who live in it. A world looks arbitrary to a person outside of it. A world satisfies both the selfish and collective interests of its members. A world grants magic powers, especially the power to filter what matters to it. A world gives permission to live differently than the wild outside. A world creates an agreement about what is relevant. A world counts certain actions inside it as meaningful. A world undergoes reformations and disruptions. A world incentivizes its members to keep it alive. A world is a container for stories of itself. A world expresses itself in many forms, but is always something more. A world is a future you can believe in, one that promises to survive its creator and continue generating drama. So when Daniel asked us to think about the technology we want to live with, as well as the role that humans will play in a world that will become more and more intertwined with these more than human agents, we discussed how that situation impacted our practice. So our approach is to incorporate these new technologies into our existing workflows while keeping a close eye on the human attributes, or this golden thread that we introduced earlier. Often that starts with playing and learning about these new tools. Before we know it, these insights bleed into our commercial work and output. So I grew up as the internet appeared and started making websites in the late 90s. The technology and tools we use to create websites have transformed since then, which at the time I thought was evolving at a really rapid pace. However, with the advent of machine learning technology, open source sharing and network tech, this next wave of progress will be incomprehensibly quick. So there's a great quote from Jack Self from his Big Flat Now article published in 2018, which was pre-Web3. The promise of the internet may yet be fully realized, but it requires a transition in power. All signs point towards a renaissance in the coming decade. What lies ahead is a flatness powered by radical inclusivity. So that really resonates with me in relation to this discussion. And I think the most interesting space for me to watch is or to participate in is the promise of decentralization and the disruption of the Web 2.0 hegemony. The internet is a graveyard. So what does blockchain and Web3 mean for the fashion industry? So the emergence of this technology represents a new paradigm of decentralization, where power and control are shifted from the centralized institutions to individuals and communities. How can we maximize these new systems? We have to start incorporating them into our outputs, into our business, into our institutions. We also need an ethical framework to ensure a human-first approach and a wider spread of equity. In this age of information, deciphering and processing these large pools of data is becoming more and more important. We're exploring how the advent of widely accessible large language tools and ML tools can help to reduce the load, take the load off and assist us in making sense of this complex world around us. And we're currently exploring how our extensive reference archive is organized and tagged using machine learning and then made available to us in our process and also to the public. So these tools offer a new window into an unimagined future. We can now have lucid dreams in real time. These dreams can unlock a world of creativity and possibility, allowing us to explore and create whole new realms. The fashion industry has always been a leader in the creation of fantasy worlds, so these new and emerging tools could ignite an important wave of creative response. Finally, we asked ChatGPT to summarize this presentation, and here's what it said. As we navigate the future, the boundaries between humans and robots are becoming increasingly blurred, and yet amidst this techno revolution, there lies a fundamental difference that shall always set us apart. The capacity for emotional depth, for creativity, for abstract thought. These are the hallmarks of human experience. Our subjective reality, our ability to feel, to introspect. These are the qualities that robots, for all their computational prowess, can never replicate. So, for though they may surpass us in strength and speed, we shall always hold a monopoly on the things that make us human. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.